how do you make that key distinction towards someone that you're willing to, well, not willing to help, or that you feel compelled to take a better path? How do you set that criteria?
There's this idea, I try and articulate it this way now, that if you imagine an alphabet in each, that we talk about getting someone from A to B using this alphabet kind of metaphor. And I think I've certainly been seduced by this fantasy of being able to get someone from A to Z, taking someone who's completely indifferent about life and converting them into, a Steve Jobs or a Da Vinci or an Oprah or a Sarah Blakely or something like that. And just but that's actually often comes from like ego and naivety from my part than reality. Because in reality, you don't really take people from A to Z. Z maybe being somewhere that you are, or someone's highest potential state. I think you actually take people from, I think the best place to focus is taking people from Y to Z. Not that you can't help people with the rest of the alphabet, but the focus is Y to Z, I think. Because I think that if you help people get from Y to Z, so say, for example, someone just behind me to get to where I'm at, maybe it's launching their own thing or going out from what they were doing before to something that's a bigger risk, for example. I think those people can help others at the stages behind, and it can filter backwards. And I think you create a shift through culture rather than through prescription, if that makes sense. So there was a quote I heard the other day, I think from Drew Riley, around don't try and change people's worldview. Find people who share your worldview and give them guidance. It was something along those lines. So instead of I tried to push Concert Student to a lot of people when we opened up the second cohort. You were one of them, Smitty. Fell into my sales trap. But a lot of people, I was like, all right, that person would get benefit out of it. That person would get benefit out of it. And I was just pushing it to like as many people, which makes sense. Launching a new business or product, like, it's not a time to be squeamish. Let people know. But at the same time, I might have been fair bit too pushy on a lot of people. Like, why wouldn't you do this? Because it's almost like I was trying to get them to make that change in their life. Like, yeah, but if you do something like this, I reckon, you'll be able to do way, way more. Which was a great learning opportunity for me, because it's almost like, wait, why do you want people who are not looking for it? You want to be the one to change their worldview and then come do this. That takes time if it's going to happen anyway. So why not focus on the people who already have the worldview? And there's this principle, one of my principles for marketing, I call it the highest ROI customer, like the highest return on investment kind of customer, like the person who gives you the most value back when you focus on them. And it's almost like that's the person you should really work with, is the person who's probably, because they normally actually have all the right traits. Like they're normally willing to pay the most money or the most attention. And they're probably the easiest to convince because they're like just at why. They're ready for that thing. They're looking for that thing. Yeah, they don't take as much convincing, obviously, because they're active and they're looking. And because they're ready to do that, they probably have an incredible, say, it's for Concert Student, they probably have such a great experience of Concert Student because they're ready for it and they're ready to make the most out of it. They're probably a great resource to recruit more people. So instead of focusing on like the kind of weakest leads and trying to like convince them because they take the most convincing, I've always found it so far, say mainly in say like dating or like business stuff, to focus on the people who are already willing, because they're easier and the return is greater. So they require, yeah, go for it. Yep, I'd love a complimentary example.
I give you, no,
That'd be great.
I
Yep.
was just gonna say, I can give you a sales example. That's kind of the whole lens of prospecting, is the fact that you're trying to go after people that are qualified, that are interested, that can afford your product, that sort of thing. As opposed to, you would never try and convince someone that is not in the market to buy what you're selling, for example. So you can kind of think of it potentially in that lens, from a sales lens. You wouldn't try and convince someone that is not ready to change, or that, is not even hasn't even taken a few steps down that path, it just makes no sense. You're wasting your own time,
Crazy.
and you're wasting their
Pushy.
time, and more than likely they're just going to think that you're, I don't know, or you think you're better than them, or something like that. They'll get that tendency. Whereas, like, it's a little bit different. I'll give you the other example as to why you encouraged me to potentially do a podcast with Dom. It's like, I've even expressed to you that would be a good idea for other reasons, for communicating better, having better conversations, being more intentional about how you speak to people, you know. So it just made total sense. And then you would then egg me on to do something with it because I'm qualified to make that decision. So it works it makes sense in sales. You see a lot of people that are sort of trying to get their product and just call up as many people or sort of speak to as many people as a tactic, and it's completely pointless because they're not, you can't help them in any way.